Hey guys, it is currently... Look, this is just part 3, okay? You know what day it is. You watched part 1 and 2, and it's time for part 3 of Empire.Kas' TvP. Part 1, we saw the basic structure of the opening. Part 2, we talked a lot about the mid-game, how he's moving stuff around, and in particular, managing expansions. Goes to kill off the most recently taken expansion. When he succeeds, he pulls back and rejoins his army together. A lot of the timing ends up being pretty straightforward. When do I push? Right when my 2-1 upgrade finishes. Often there are some really cool, aggressive builds that you have to be really, really clever with. You know, where, oh my gosh, I saw a ripple of an observer, which means he's going robotics facility, which means that suddenly I have to worry about this set of timings. And if I don't see that ripple, then I'll probably have to assume that he's going Templar tech or expanding, and he says probe came at this angle, and there's like a million different times to attack. With this Empire.Kas style, pretty straightforward. You get upgrades. When your upgrades finish, go attack. When 2-1 finishes, make another attack. When 3-2 finishes, make another attack. Yeah! It's almost funny how in some of the most clean build orders out there, they feel easy to play, not because the winning feels easy, but because there are so few decisions that you actually need to make in the game. The decisions happen by themselves. Sean, are you attacking? No, my 2-1's not finished yet. But he has no units, Sean. 2-1. Because 2-1. Cool. Even Neanderthal Day 9 can do it. Yeah. Ain't nothing to it. Neanderthal Day 9 made you do it. There's mana. In part number 3, what we're going to look at is... Whoopsie daisies. We are going to look at this build losing. Losing. We're going to look at him lose. So that way we can see some of what possibly went wrong. I am of the opinion that whenever you are doing this sort of large macro style, getting a lot of upgrades is critically important. The one thing that you always desperately need when you're going for upgrade-focused builds is lots of time. You need to be able to buy yourself the time to do it. Well, if we're building ourselves a third command center and taking an expansion, our goal is to attack later anyways, so it's completely in line to make sure we have ourselves lots of upgrades as well. Bunker goes down, command center, bam, going down. What we're going to see from Empire.Kas in this game is a little teensy slip up in some of the those upgrade counts and some of those upgrade timings.
Upgrade complete.
Oh, this is the game where I guess I derived my notes from. Yeah, look at that. Getting both his refineries at the same time after this orbital command. Excelente. Let us remind ourselves of all that is familiar between this game and the last game. Aha, bunker. Bunker going down immediately. Getting ourselves as many Marines as possible. Getting the tech lab up ASAP. What are we going to get out of that? Stim, Sean, stim. Here is the first moment that kind of made me go, huh, now wait a minute. This is why I think that this ordering stuff can end up being so important. In a game like StarCraft 2, the difference between 30 seconds too early and 30 seconds too late can be quite huge. That's the difference between arriving when a spine crawler is half done and arriving when a spine crawler is done. Pretty... Look, it's just big, alright? I don't need to go through examples. You all play the fucking game. And it was this moment that I was kind of thinking, now why are we getting medevacs so quickly? I mean, we're going to be a little bit low on Marines anyways because we went for this third command center first. We're going to be... I have to resume just a few more seconds. That red thwobbing is really distracting me. Whew, thank goodness, man. ADD was going crazy. Also, our Protoss player has plenty more time to prepare. Looks like Mana is just now finishing up his warp gates. Yeah, he has plenty more time to prepare his stuffs. And I just don't see the benefit of getting those early medevacs. We see Stim coming down here eventually. We see the Marauder and the Marines coming down. His production is spot on. There's that Stim. There's the excellent macro, per usual. And Empire.Kas is a sick beast when it comes to just landing all these perfectly. The only reason I could really think of to getting this up so quickly is to say, I bet you he is expanding here very early, therefore I will drop him very early. But I think that's fine logic if this orbital command did not go down first, but because it went down, we're gonna macro. Let's just trust in macro. I mean, hell, Mana was left to do a super straight sick macro game before. Why would he not? And we managed to crush it. Why not just believe in ourselves and go with that anyways? Pretty typical timing with our engineering bay when compared to last game as well. This is a little bit annoying and unfortunate, but not that big a deal. I would just say, in the future, be careful with supply depot placement. But I'm looking at that +1. I'm seeing it that it isn't doing that much. Per usual, +1, barracks, barracks, lift command center. Pretty typical standard order. But as we speed things up a little bit, I don't think there's that much commentary to do right now. Cool, the factory spots that stuff. Darn, we don't really want this pounding at the front to happen. But here's the reason I'm a little bit leery about these harassment-style drops. How did the pressure look in the last game? Well, in the last game, we were kind of waltzing towards the front, and we did a drop at a retreatable location. Little tactical errors like this can be really dangerous. We have no push coming at the front door. This, I think, would generally be okay, but a big blunder, like leaving it in range there, I think is more than enough to cause us troubles. Even if we did something as simple as have our factory float here and then land down there, I think we'd be okay. Empire.Kas loses a lot of units here. So already we're in a little bit of a rough spot. We didn't even need that drop to distract our opponent while we took the expansion. We just go take the frickin' expansion.
Base is under attack.
So that's our first little blunder, but I think the even bigger one that we're going to see is that these upgrades end up being quite a bit later.
Add-on complete.
Empire.Kas is doing everything else pretty much in line with that, with what we saw in the last game. There's the armory plopping down. There's the +1 attack, but I want to see that +2 like super spot on coming out ultra frickin' early. But we're seeing lots of other things getting started there. Finally, it starts at 13 minutes, which was a good deal bit later than it was in last game. And you know, other than that, everything is still pretty much kind of the same. But still, just something as simple as losing these medevacs without that much of a gain. We have another drop coming out, and I feel a little bit of an inconsistency here. If we are going for huge... Oh, someone just asked me 1 for 2 Ghost Academies. It looks like he has 1... No, I just got trolled. That's why. That's why I should be more oblivious. There's something that bothers me about this drop that's sort of swinging in right now. If we're going for a huge macro game, if we're going for having an earlier third, bigger upgrades, more units, and all that jazz, I feel like we should be trying to seize control of the middle more. A drop like this, it's not linked to anything. If we were doing this drop and taking our 4th, do we have a command center moving out? Okay, that makes a little more sense, but having the rest of this army just like parked right out here, I think it's always better to begin moving out here and then to this watchtower. And then what happened in last game? When Empire.Kas moved out to the watchtower, then he shot over with those medevacs and still kind of dropping in somewhat of a vulnerable location. Here's the sort of drop that look of retreat is what I like a lot more. But there's no army to retreat to. This army needs to be moving out at the same time. Unfortunately, EmpireKas manages to take down that stuff anyways. Now, what we're going to see is a testament to the strength of this build as well.
Armed and ready.
Upgrade.
Even though EmpireKas has lost a good amount of stuff in the drops, we can see that there's a good amount of units killed. One thing that I did not mention last game, because it's so perfectly illustrative in this game, is that when we can move out like this and we have we have map control, and our army's been able to do things like do this drop here. Like, let me actually sneak back 2 seconds to when that drop was happening, right here. When this drop was happening, we got the chance to be like, oh, look at that, there's his whole army. When you do a little drop like that, and you're moving your army around, all like this, there becomes points where you can just clearly scan, and his army necessarily must be there. If we're at this point right now, where is his army? It's pretty much got to be here, right? The one thing we haven't seemed to account for much is Colossi. We can just scan here and look at it. And that's going to give us a ton of information. And as you're noticing, I can even see people typing it in the chat. That's right. There's an expansion going down here for mana. Having something as simple as an SCV just poking around as you move out. You don't have to just... Oopsie daisies, I didn't mean to rewind. You don't have to be really aggressive and be scanning all over the place. At a time like this, you have map control. You can send your friendly SCV out. You can control this watchtower too. And we're going to zoom forward a brief bit. I think this makes perfect sense to have this command center here. EmpireKas hits max. He's getting ready to move out. And he attacks just before his +2 weapons upgrade is done. Just needed to wait 5 more seconds. Look at how stupidly close this battle is going to be. We have a pair of Vikings that are not going to be able to contribute that much to the fight. There are 3 Colossi right now. I'm going to highlight the 2 Vikings just so you can see them. A lot of units for EmpireKas. Some decent EMPs went down. One of the Vikings is already down. 2 of the Vikings are down. Look at how ridiculously close that was still. This battle was really damn close. If EmpireKas did a couple of the following, he'd be fine. If he had discovered Colossi earlier and just gone for another starport, he'd be fine. In fact, many Terrans nowadays, before they take the 4th, they just build a 2nd starport right now because you have a lot of barracks down. It's reasonable to invest 150, 100 to build another starport in a just-in-case scenario. If EmpireKas had just waited briefly until his +2 was done, look how much farther, look how far into the battle EmpireKas was. He's already lost 40 food without +2. A ton of shots going off. Oh, still 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 190. Done. Alright. His army is basically gone. Let's see how many Marauders he has. We can't really rely on that count because there's plenty of stuff back there. Yeah, we have about 24 units left from our push. Whereas at the start of the push, we had a hell of a lot more. We had like frickin' 3 tabs worth of units. So obviously that's not good. And last but not least, being able to check for these expansions. Being able to check for those expansions and not losing these medevacs here. And even then, even after losing the medevacs, not spotting this expansion. Even after that +2, not finishing up in time. And not really having that many Vikings. EmpireKas is still not in an unwinnable situation by any means. In fact, it's going to be damn hard for mana to be able to take out that, or to be able to defend this top expansion. As the game progresses, we just see that mana slowly pushes forward more and more and more and more until he's able to target fire this planetary fortress and take it out. The existence of just a single starport, I think, hurt him just enough. 1 starport, late upgrade. Lost things in the medevac. and slowly EmpireKas ends up losing. So it's one of those things that depends on how you frame it. It's so easy to say, damn, the matchup is so fragile for Terran. Like, for instance, if I were like commentating at an MLG or something, I'd be like, oh, Wheat or Husky, such a close game. If you just attack right before that +2 is done, or if you don't have that extra starport, or don't scout your expansions, even if you just lose 2 medevacs, that's enough for you to lose the game. That's the way that you'd say it to make it all grim-sounding, intense. But in a sense, you can also say, well, it's so straightforward. If I just have enough patience to wait until +2's done, if I have enough patience to just get that second starport up and do an extra scan in there, I can swing the tide into my favor, just like in that last game. Ding! Because again, EmpireKas, with a direct attack at the front against a Protoss with Colossi, lost by the skin of his teeth. With only 2 Vikings. That's sick. So now I'm going to do what I did not do yesterday. I'm going to take some questions. Just like 3. Just 3. And I strongly recommend this build. It's pretty easy to execute after a couple of times, because so much of what you're doing is not moving an army around and trying to attack and then attack and going, oh crap, I didn't build anything back in my base. You're just kind of sitting in your base. Marky, is a question grabber not on? Ah, it is on. Ha 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 ha. Eric's D-Man says, I noticed Kas never went above 5 medevacs, even when he had a huge army. Is there a certain ratio of medevacs for bio to go for? I try not to think of it in terms of like a ratio or anything like that. There's like a couple of ways to answer the question. In the early game, like in the early game, I think it can be a mistake to just spam the D button and max medevac production. Medevacs are pretty expensive because you're building 2 of them at a time, and because they build pretty quickly anyways. It's just like 42 seconds of medevac, I think. So you can churn out a ton fast. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having like 8 or 10 medevacs in an overall big army. Especially if your opponent is like a Zealot Archoning player, Zealot Archon Templar kind of guy, and you're going Marine Medevac Ghost, you can spam the hell out of a lot of medevacs. And in fact, you're probably going to want to have... you're actually probably going to want to have... Yeah. I'm trying to think of a situation where you wouldn't want to have that many in that spot. It helps a lot. But the important thing is that you can pretty comfortably do that because you're cutting so many Vikings out there. A big thing that was happening to Kas in these games is he was going, holy crap, he's getting so many frickin' Colossi. And that will obviously force you to churn out some Vikings. But I actually want to swing back in here and look at the game and see what his production looked like in the starport. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Come on. Come on, build it. While this is going on, I'll answer Ranos' question. The 4 warp gate is fairly hard to hold in a regular 1-Rax expand without getting the 3rd CC. How do you think such a greedy build would fare against 1 base all-ins like the 4 warp gate? I kind of hate to say that it's one of those things that's hard, but you just kind of get used to doing it. It's kind of like a bunker rush for a Zerg player. It's not unwinnable in any sense, but sometimes it works really well, such as... Spoiler alert, in a very recent match of a major tournament, we saw a player bunker rush effectively. But we also see it being quite ineffective a lot of times as well. One of the big things that I think helps a ton is supply depot placement at the front of your base, or some sort of other walling procedure at the front of the base. But far and away the biggest one is reaction time, just having like super ultra mega ninja fast reactions. So I want to look at this, where EmpireKas gets his... Is these his first 2 medevacs? No, he should have two other medevacs here. Yeah, it looks like he just goes for the first 4 medevacs, and then a lot of the rest of the gas is spent on... Yeah, it looks like he just went 4 medevacs, and the rest of his gas was just into those upgrades. Yeah, look at that, just churning out Vikings. Even getting another starport. Viking, 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 Viking. Marauders are surprisingly expensive gas-wise. I want to see exactly when he finished that +2. He finished it at 1514. I want to do a compare and contrast between the games when the upgrades got done. I do this a lot, where I load up one and then load up the other, and back and forth and back and forth. I think it's a great way to study replays. Yeah! But reaction time is really the #1 most important thing for 4 gates. Let us see here. Scooter Man 1987. I find that after the standard PvT game ends, there is a transition into Zealot Archon. Is it better to keep making Marines and Marauders and kite them while EMPing? Basically, yeah. I mean, just Marine, Marauder, Ghost with a lot of medevacs. I think medevacs are kind of the underrated component to that. But the big thing is favoring Ghosts, churning out as many frickin' Ghosts as you can and not shying away from Marines. Marines will clean everything up pretty darn quickly, pretty darn effectively. I'll take one more question. And then I want to come back to this other thing. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Euro Mono Battles, Sunday morning. I said this last week, but I haven't been emphasizing it this week. Thank you very much, Scones1. I'll be doing Euro subscriber mono battling at 7 p.m. CEST, which is 10 a.m. PST, I believe. Should be 10 a.m. I just want to point out that at 1514, that's when I saw that +2 was long done. In this game, we're actually going to see it be quite a bit later. Here's the time. Oh, yuck. Crap. It was almost a full freaking minute late. In game 1, he had his upgrade done a minute earlier than in this game. Ooh, that's kind of significant. It's more significant than I'd thought. And this is something that I like to do a lot with my own games. A lot of times I'll be like, man, that game felt pretty good. Ooh, that game felt not so good. And I'll go back and see something like, wow, I had 3 Colossi a full minute earlier than I did in the other game. No wonder that holding that attack felt easy. So I just recommend doing that. Somehow I went an hour and a half today. I don't really know how that's possible. Maybe it's because it crashed. See you guys later. No daily tomorrow, but get ready for subscriber mono battles, the European edition. Let's do it! Bye guys, hearts and love.